Hello class, I'm going to make this the last video of the day because it is getting late. So this video is about how to insert into a database using a form in your in HTML. So in this case, you can refer to Professor Lever's note, which is under MySQL and PHP, and here we have adding. So this is all cool. She's using the post variables instead of the get variables. That's because, if the form is using a post method to pass the parameters, then you have to use the post variable to extract those variables. So that by itself is fine. However, there's a security concern with the approach of directly injecting the variables that we get into the query itself. So let me demonstrate or illustrate what I mean by that. See right here, we have the title variable, um, which is a copy of the post variable using title as the key. Now remember, post is almost the same thing as get. If we can manipulate the get variable by changing the URL itself, there are many tools that you can get to manipulate the post variables before the post request is sent to the server. So this, what we get back as the post variable can be entirely doctored. In other words, you really don't have any control over whether the content of the post variables are correct or not. So now we have both the title and also the genre variables just direct copies of what is passed using the post method. And you can also see how those are utilized here and here, which is a part of the string that we'll be using as the query. And then right next to this is the query itself, MySQL I underscore query. So this query is being sent directly to MySQL. So at this point, I would like to direct your attention to the following: MySQL, PHP, SQL, injection. Okay, and there are tons of examples of that. So you might want to read it because it is actually a serious kind of threat, especially when your website may contain sensitive data. And sometimes, even if your database does not contain sensitive data, people can use your website as a launch pad to launch attacks to other sites. And those kind of attacks are called cross-site scripting. And let me show you that too. So cross-site scripting, which basically means you may be running a website that is not including any sensitive data, but people who can hack onto your website can use your website as a launchpad to hack the browsers of people who might have sensitive data on their own computers. So between these two, read about SQL injection and also read about cross-site scripting, then you will understand why it is important not to allow these things to happen. Well, as it turns out, it is not difficult to prevent those things from happening, and that's what real escape string is for. So MySQL I underscore real underscore escape underscore string is a function where you pass it a string and it gives you back a string. The difference between the string that you give it and the string that is coming back is anything that is tricky, anything that can potentially be used in a SQL injection attack will be escaped. In other words, the string, whatever string is returned by real escape string is going to be saved to be used inside the expansion of a string that will be used in querying. In other words, when you go to here, it is better to call real escape string around this post variable and also around this post variable. And then once that is done, then title and genre will be saved to be put here to be expanded inside an actual query. And if you read about MySQL injection, SQL injection, you will know what I mean by that. Because in this particular example, somebody can pass in some additional values by formatting their title to be, how should I put it? In this case, it may not be relevant because you're inserting into a book and it is passing these specific values in the order that is specified in the table itself. But in some other cases, people can put in some string and then a quote, comma, and then a quote something else. So they can basically they can pad a hacking portion of an SQL script into your script so that your script doesn't do what it is supposed to do anymore. Instead, it will do more. It can either display more rows than it should, or it can make changes to the database that it is not supposed to do, or at least not originally intended. So, so as you're reading these links from Professor Lever's website, I would like to keep in mind that everything that you use, that everything that you expand into a string that becomes the query that is passed to MySQL underscore query really should be escaped first using, let me find it again, using MySQL underscore real underscore escape underscore string. And once, if you do that, then you would stop most, if not all, SQL injection attack to your website. So I'm gonna stop here, and this is going to be the last video of today, the Saturday. And then tomorrow I'll give you a few more videos on how to insert items into the database and also how to integrate sorting into the display.